So, I mean, we have some other, maybe you've already answered these questions, but how often do you find that businesses are overpaying their premiums?
That's a common question. That, what do you find? So it's got to be broken down into one of the categories is if you're a plumber and you have 10 employees, maybe you're overpaying, but not much.
You're right. You're keeping an eye on it.
So what we like is the more complex. Meaning you could be a GC that self-performs. So you have all these different class codes, you have losses, your experience mod wild swings. And I'll give you some great examples of how often I see it. I see it a lot. The biggest thing I see is, and I'm gonna just jump one side on gaps and liability and umbrella and auto coverage. We find that every policy we look at.
These different types of insurance.
Those are different types, other than the workers' comp. So we combine the two. So when we're looking at work comp, I say, send me your policies and we'll do a quick gap analysis for you. And so, but back on the work comp side, the more complex you are, the more you pay mistakes, and the more, because the bigger you are, you're gonna have more claims, right? So at the end of the day, you're gonna have a lot of claims, or a fair amount. So that's the data that we're looking at. So we're looking at closure dates. We're looking at how it's called an injury code. So what that means is, this is a little deep, right? But this is something, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this, or you're private equity companies and you're looking at this, when somebody gets hurt, it's a cut finger, the person's back to work, the injury code is a 6. What that means is a medical only. That doesn't see, when you look at the mod worksheet, you'll be able to see all these things. And so a medical only claim, when it goes into the calculation of your mod, let's just say that it was $1,000 medical only. Well, built into the formula, they only use, when they calculate your mod, they don't use the whole 1,000. They take 30% of that, or $300, and they say, that's what we're gonna calculate your mod, because it's medical only. A lost time claim, so that's an injury code 5. These are some of the mistakes we find. That counts the whole thing, and typically a $1,000 claim, and this is a very small example, if it's a lost time, by the time it goes into your mod, and the increase in your mod, that claim will cost you about $2,500.
So you have two types of claims there: injury only and lost time. But lost time does include an injury.
Lost time includes lost wages.
But what about the injury? There's an injury also.
It's the cost of the medical and the lost wages.
So it's a double hit.
Right. And so there's times I look at this stuff and I look at loss runs. I'm talking to a new business and I go, look, here's the claim and the lost wages were $100. You just changed that claim, and I'm talking, let's say a $10,000 claim.
Right.
Why didn't you pay that $100?
Right.
Why didn't you call the carrier? You can do that and pay that. So you kept that $10,000 claim as a medical only, and they're only going to use, 30% or $3,000.
Portion of it, right?
Now you take that $10,000. It's a lost time claim. Multiply that times 2.5. Now that claim's costing you $25,000.
So these overpayments, is that part of overpayment?
That's part of the stuff I go in and look at.
That's more of a strategy that you're saying,
it's
right?
Part
it's a strategy.
It's everything that I look at. Sometimes they list that claim. They'll put it in while it's still open, right? So they say, this guy got hurt. We've already paid $10,000 out on this claim. I'm talking about the same $25,000 claim, but we think we're going to pay another $15,000 out, right?
Yeah.
So that's reserves. So when they put it in your mind, it's $25,000.
They take it.
And they clap because they think they're going to pay lost wages. Well, the employer says, I'm paying him. If he's out of work, I'm going to pay him. I'm going to keep it off of that. That's a strategy. But if then they close it and it goes from a 5 lost time, they close it, nothing's been paid out in wages. It's now a medical only claim.
And that's your goal.
I go and find them.
That's your goal.
I look at that stuff and go, look,
these overpayments, you said it's a complex company, right? It's a larger company, one that does many things. Do we see the mistakes all the way down the chain? Is it not just one person? Because you have one person, say you have an accountant for that company that monitors all these payments, but this person doesn't know if the payment is correct. They're just making sure that the payment was paid.
Okay.
So all the way down the line, are people making mistakes?
So yes, absolutely. And sometimes it can be in a contractor software program. They're using a certain software program, and it's allocating workers' hours in separate and different class codes. And I found that once. But here,
wait, now who programs that?
this is the software that they buy.
They bought it and it's already
I've only run into it probably 3 or 4 or 5 times.
But that's interesting because people trust those programs.
They trust, so it allocates this payroll, and then the auditor gets that. And they go, oh, we're going to take the highest class code because maybe the guy's doing this, and then he's doing this, right?
And this is in an effort to make everything easier and convenient, the apps.
Here, I'm going to give you a good example. When you say, whether is it the CFO that's not watching it? So in Clearwater, there's a metal fabrication shop, okay? Been in business a long time. Their premium's $100 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I do is I go in, when he sent me the contract, I go in and look at their website. So I'm looking at, okay, what are these guys doing? It looks like any other steel fab shop, right? And I got a lot of clients out of steel fab guys. So it looks like that, and they're in that class code. So now I'm digging through everything, and I see that, I'm meeting with the owner. And I go, who's your number one competitor in doing what you do? And he named the company. And I know the company because they're a client of mine. And he said, that's my competition. Well, that client of mine is not paying steel fabrication because they're fabricating parts for conveyor systems. So when you look at all that metal, welders, guys with torches, all that stuff, that rate is 60% less.
Wow.
Now, who's to blame? So first of all, over the years, this guy's had a lot of insurance agents.
Yeah.
They never caught it. Blame doesn't stop there. The carrier has had loss control engineers going out and meet with this guy. They're looking around. They don't know. So you think a loss control would say, well, what do you do? Of course, they don't know codes that well, right? So they're just looking for safety. You have auditors that are coming out. What do you do? Tell me about your business. They look at, they see it as a metal fab shop. His premium was 100 grand. We lowered it to 40 grand. Now, the beauty is we can go back 3 years.
Right.
So that's 60,000 times 3, he gets the check back for 180,000 bucks. That's the advantage.
This is what I say to all my guys in class, and yet we still don't get enough participation. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason where someone doesn't want their books to be looked at.
Yeah.
Or they have some paranoia about their books being looked at. So I can't figure that out because if you're saving this kind of money all the time, and these people who come in, like you said, all these different people, the interest is not in the client's best interest. If you're not looking to save them money, if you're the loss control guy from an insurance company, you're just hoping to get that premium, the highest premium for your insurance company.
Well, I'm not always saying that. I'm just saying they don't know. I go back to how come the agent didn't pick up it? He doesn't.
But are they
know.
for the client? Do they want to help the client? Is
Well,
what I'm saying. In fact, I don't even really know what a loss control guy is from a carrier.
Yeah. So
what is that position?
They're like a safety guy. So they walk out there. They're walking around there. If you're like this particular steel fab guy, they're walking the shop. They're making sure the guys are wearing their hoods when they're welding. Extension cords
right
across.
Housekeeping.
It's just it's that whole thing, right? So they're looking at all that stuff where a claim could happen. They're asking about training. Are you training these guys before you put it? That's a whole different
thing. And this is not a very in-depth kind of analysis. This is what, once every year?
What's that?
That the loss control guy
they
comes
go about
out.
once a year. Yeah, that's right. If you're having a lot of claims, they'll go more than that. Or sometimes they'll go, if you don't have any claims, they may show up once, every 3 or 4 years. It's kind of a box to check. And also depends on your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got 10 plumbers. They're not going to beat you up over coming out a lot. You're not having any claims.
Yeah.
But it goes back to understanding where to look. Look, you go to my website, I've got a lot of great examples on my website of where we got money back.